Hello. So today we will be discussing about the American period or the Philippine arts during the American period. So during the American period, the Americans brought many changes in their 45 years of reign in the country, and these influences can still be seen in the arts and culture of the Filipino people. The American government gave priority to educational value formation, both the American way of life, the spread of democracy, and the formation of good citizens, including the rights and responsibilities of the people, were the focus of American education in the country. Also, during the Spanish period, the Spaniards had given enormous land properties to the Catholic Church. So, one of the things that the Americans did was to disestablish the Catholic Church by purchasing an extensive amount of church land and uh, redistributing these land properties. Now, to do so, they first had to pay an amount of $7.2 million to the Vatican in 1904. No? So during this time, arts and learning were no longer the center of church and religious theme. Focus really shifted to the demand of new patrons. No? American patrons who sought tropical scenes for their new colony favor genre, still lifes, and landscape subjects. No? So also the merchants and tourists during this time sought variety of themes, and so the range of subjects for art also expanded considerably. So new styles such as Art Nouveau and Art Deco were also introduced during this time. We have architecture during the American period. So the architecture of the American colonial period was patterned after civic buildings of the neoclassical style. The New York design influence is strongly reflective in this style, according to Mahanan in 2005. These influences can be seen in the use of new materials such as reinforced concrete, glass, and steel. As you can see here in the example or in the picture, this is the Philippine Post Office. No? It was already um, burned down by fire just a month ago. So, with the Americans taking over the Philippines, urban planning was really introduced now, and new buildings are need to be constructed to house various government services as well as school buildings, hospitals, commercial buildings, and residential houses. So several Filipino architects who studied from the States were employed to plan for a neoclassical style building or neoclassical style of government building. Several of these are, of course, the Congress, the Post Office, the Supreme Court, the Philippine General Hospital, and the Manila Hall. So later in the third and fourth decades, some architects who are knowledgeable in the architecture developments in Europe and the United States began to introduce modern elements in the design. Then we have painting during the American period. So in painting, artists like Fabian de la Rosa work on realistic subjects and with a soft, cool palette of colors. It was Fabian de la Rosa who first defined Philippine landscape in art, the first to be sensitive to space as a vital element, interacting with the forms of the land, and first to discover the different tones of green in the forests and fields. Fabian de la Rosa was the brightest name in Philippine painting after Luna and certainly the leading master of the genre in the first quarter of the century. So here in the picture, this is not Fabian de la Rosa, but this is Fernando Amorsolo. Fernando Amorsolo is another popular artist who got his start during the American era. No, so he is the nephew of Fabian de la Rosa. Fernando Amorsolo was the first artist to ever be awarded the Order of National Artist in 1972. He is also renowned for his artworks romantically depicting Philippine rural scenes and sun drenched countryside scenery. So his work and his leadership as a professor and the dean of the UP School of Fine Arts in 1952 to 1955 inspired the development of the Amorsolo School of Painting in the University of the Philippines. So this school, based in the University of the Philippines School of Fine Arts, functioned as the local academy that set the standards and dominated the rural scene. Then we have the sculpture during the American period. So in 1903, just a year after their success in the Philippine-American War, the Americans the Americans ordered the erection of monuments to Jose Rizal in all the plazas of the country. It was only in 1913, however, that a prototype of these monuments was built by a Swiss national showing Rizal in a top coat with a book in the left hand, that is according to Ortiz et al. In 1970. No, so where Amorsolo remained the dominant figure in painting. In sculpture, there was Guillermo Tolentino. Having studied in the academy in Rome, he set the ground for classical sculpture in the country. But while his figures observed the classical norms, he made them recognizably Filipino. No? So Tolentino's masterpieces include the Oblation in the UP or in the University of the Philippines and the Bonifacio Monument in Caloocan. The picture there is the um, uh, Bonifacio Monument in Caloocan. The 45 feet tall monument of Andres Bonifacio was completed in 1933 and now stands at the end of Avenida and the beginning of the Manila North Road. It is composed of 23 figures depicting scenes of injustices, suffering, and resistance of the Filipino masses. So his ablation has become the symbol of the country's premier state university. Now, it reflects the classical ideas, discipline, order, symmetry, and restraint. Now, so the naked figure of a young man in a symbolic gesture of sacrificial offering of service to country and humanity has become a landmark in every campus of the university. So this piece was commissioned by the first Filipino president of the University of the Philippines, no, to translate the second stanza of Jose Rizal's Mi Ultimo Adios into a visual form, which would become the identifying landmark of the university. No? So in 1973, Guillermo Tolentino was named as a national artist for sculpture. No? Several sculptures followed the standards set by Tolentino, such as Anastasio Caido and his son Florentino Caido. Next, we have modernism to contemporary times of Philippine art. So the first 3 decades of the 20th century in the Philippines were dominated by painter Fernando Amorsolo and sculptor Guillermo Tolentino until Victorio Idades returned to the Philippines and introduced modernism to local artists. His first art exhibit after his return from the US in 1928 caused quite a controversy, particularly his works The Builders. Contrary to Amorsolo's ever-smiling Dalagang Filipina, Idades showed the hardship of life for the working classes. No, so contrary to Amorsolo's ever-smiling Dalagang Filipina, Idades showed the hardship of life for the working classes. Instead of smiling farmers and fisher folks of Amorsolo, it depicted distorted, naked working men covering in sweat and shirt. So this exhibit was the first public exposure to modern art in the Philippines. No, that it was met with shock and disdain to the audience that there was not a painting sold. No, so Idades joined the University of Santo Tomas in 1930s and became the dean of its Department of Architecture. He introduced a liberal arts program that offers subjects as art history leading to a bachelor's degree in fine arts. So Idades' lessons in modernism did not fall on barren ground. No, he was soon able to ally with different artists such as Carlos V. Francisco and Galo B. Ocampo. No, together they formed the pioneering triumvirate of modern art in the country and produced a mural of the lobby of the Capitol Theater in Escoto Street. No, so this began the growth of mural painting in the Philippines. No, so in time, Idades, Idades' group expanded into the 13 moderns, considered the pioneers of modern art in the Philippines. Well, this includes Diosdado Lorenzo, Vicente Manansala, Cesar Legaspi, Anita Magsasayho, Hernando Arocampo, Demetrio Diego, Arsenio Capili, Ricardo Purunganan, Bonifacio Cristobal, and Jose Pardo as members of the 13 Moderns. So the support system of modern arts was laid down with the founding of the Art Association of the Philippines, or the AAP, and its annual painting competition, which welcomed both modernist and conservative works. So, similarly, the PAG, or the Philippine Art Gallery, provided a venue for the exhibits of fledgling modernists. No? Central to these projects were two women, that is Purita Calao Ledesma. Purita Calao Ledesma was actually the daughter of the first carnival queen of the Philippines, Pura Calao. Pura Calao was actually the first winner of the Manila Carnival Queen. She is the Unang Reina, so who founded the AAPP, or the AAP, and Lydia Villanueva Argilia, who opened the pioneering PAG in Ermita in 1948. That is according to the CCP. So, the influences of international style in Philippine modern painting, as well as the other aspects of cultural race, to question the Filipino identity in art. Some artists sought an answer to this by representing in their works the existing conditions and aspiration of the Filipino masses. Now, although much modern art in the Philippines reflects the trends in the international art scene, so a number of artists continued to search for national identity by using local subject matter, while others explored in the use of indigenous motifs, as in the works of Abdul Mari Imao. No others find an answer in the review of the interpretation of history, as in the works of Ben Cabrera or Ben Cab, as seen in the picture. No? So, in the era of sculpture during the modernism to contemporary period, experimentation with the new materials and new sculpture concepts are the manifestation of development of both modern sculpture in the Philippines. It is both a reaction against the classical conservative tradition and a dedication to the latest trends in the international school of sculpture. So, Napoleon Abueva, the first modern Filipino sculptor, regards national identity in the sculpture as necessary, believing instead that pure from and good design alone should be a consideration in appraising their works. And also, other sculptures have done public sculpture like using brass, bronze, and wood by means of prevailing concepts in modern sculpture. No? The last one is the future of Philippine art. So many forces have affected and will affect the development of Philippine art and have stringed a dazzling variety of forms, styles, and expressions. And also, along with the fascination of following the international trend of trying new ways and creating new forms, a growing national consciousness is also awakened and inspires many artists to express nationalistic sentiments that serve goals for freedom, democracy, and progress that its effect contributes to the benefit of the national art. So many of the contemporary artists also gain experience with the new imaging and multimedia tools and internet, with lots of information and more access to the resources. The works of the new generation of Filipino artists are displaying constant change and exploration and in varieties of different innovations now. So their performance in the coming years together will largely determine the future of Philippine art. So with this, the next generation of young artists, in any case, are the true heirs of the Philippine contemporary art movement. Thank you.